This is Capital Games. I am the Wiz. We just got big news late Thursday night, and you probably have already heard it, but I wanted to talk about it since it was announced. And that is that E3 2023 has been officially canceled by the ESA and ReedPop. I am on the site right now of gamesindustry.biz. They actually are run by ReedPop, I believe, or they're part of ReedPop. So they have some interesting quotes they posted on there. And I wanted to go over the reasons why E3 was canceled. So let's just get right down to it. Gamesindustry.biz, and they are speaking to the ESA. I'm trying to find out who the person is that they spoke to. CEO Stanley Pierre-Louis. And here's what he had to say. He said that there was a strong start going into E3 for the year, but then there were some challenges that proved to be insurmountable to a certain extent. So here's what he says. First, several companies had reported that the timeline for game development has been altered since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Second, economic headwinds have caused several companies to reassess how they invest in large marketing events. And third, companies are starting to experiment with how to find their right balance between in-person events and digital marketing opportunities. So basically what the CEO of the ESA essentially said, it's three things. COVID had made a big hitch with a lot of people and a lot of companies in their development, which is true. That did happen. Second, the economic headwinds thing. It's becoming for a lot of companies that want to do large marketing, it's becoming a little untenable at the point right now to do that, to do such big things and spend a lot of money on marketing. And then third, that and something we've already known, that companies are starting to use digital and balance both digital and in-person marketing when it comes to talking about their games that they're in development with. All three of these things, all three of them, are things we already knew about. Really, a lot of people already knew about and talked about even before E3 2023 was announced. These were things that a lot of commentators were talking that, and I can remember me and Zero starting this last year and commenting on certain things about this, going, wait a minute. And as much as I want E3 to, or an E3, something like E3 to exist to a certain extent, is there room for it? And are people going to find something worthwhile to invest in E3? And as the CEO of the ESA essentially said, it doesn't look like they did this year to a certain extent. I could go on with this. This is a long interview. They're pretty cagey on whether they're going to try and do E3 again next year to a certain extent. But I would venture to guess, if there hasn't been an E3 in 3 years, now 4 years, the year that they were going to have it returned, they got no support to the point where they actually canceled it. I am going to take a stab in the dark and say that it is likely that E3 is probably over at this point. And a part of me is sad about that to a certain extent. And I'm looking at it in nostalgic eyes as well, like I discussed in the last episode, where I remember specifically watching E3 press conferences on G4, on GameSpot, on IGN, like 15, 16 years ago. I would take, when it comes to like work, I would take a week off of work. I would take my vacation time on E3 time because I wanted to know everything that was announced. That's how much of an exciting time E3 was. And I still think the holiday of E3, the specific block of time where everybody announces big things in that specific time, is still vitally important. And maybe this is the thing that Jeff Keighley needs to make Summer Games Fest to be even bigger, by taking over what E3 was, but do it in a different way. He may be able to do that, and that would be interesting to see what happened. Guess at this point, and let's also be fair, a lot of people, not only just press, but I also think a lot of companies, and it looks like specifically the platform holders, haven't been really happy with the direction E3 has been going in the past, I would say, 7-8 years at this point? Especially when they started trying to bring the public in and how much of a mess that was. So yeah, I guess I'm not entirely surprised, but I'm pretty disappointed. But even then, even though I was looking forward to E3, I had questions in the back of my head going, what is this going to be? Now that we knew that the 3 platform holders are not going to be there, and then the announcement that Ubisoft, Tencent, and Sega are not going to be there, there was probably going to be a lot more companies down the line that were going to announce that they were not going to be there. So this must have been incredibly untenable for E3 and the ESA. I personally thought that even with a bunch of people canceling, they were still going to do it just to rake in the fees and to get the ticket sales for E3. That was what I was expecting in this. And I guess they probably realized if they did that, they would have lost more money by doing something like that. So that it might have been, as a business, very untenable to do that to a certain extent. And I don't know if the companies that bought booth space are going to get their money back. Something tells me I doubt that. But it is interesting to see what led to this to a certain extent, which is what everybody was talking about to a certain extent of, this is not something that's working right now, and not people are interested in. A lot of companies are shying away from E3, doing their own directs and doing their own streams and everything. Like for example, I mean, wouldn't Silent Hill 2 Remake been a great thing to announce at E3? But instead, Konami did that on their own. Which, again, I get the reason why to a certain extent that they did that, and I think they were... I guess Silent Hill was popular enough that people were willing to tune into that stream to find out what was being announced, which is cool. Not every game and game company can do that, and at a certain point, these big game companies, I'm going to be honest with you. I know Ubisoft is having their own thing around E3 time. I think they announced it on a Tuesday, that they're going to be at LA and they're going to do a presentation there. Don't see a lot of gamers checking out that stream unless it's those people who that are used to E3 and having a slate of announcements and blocking up a large chunk of time to check out the stream. That would be the only reason why I think people are going to check out the Ubisoft Connect on that one. So or is it Ubisoft Forward? Yeah, it's Ubisoft Forward. This is what's going to lead to, I think. I think that a lot of these companies are going to shy away from this format. That unless Keighley really steps up on Summer Games Fest and makes it a big thing like E3, I think a lot of companies are going to say, you know what, we don't need it. We don't need to do that anymore. It's unnecessary. And I still think that is a mistake. I will say until I am proven wrong otherwise, I think that's a mistake. I think they should at least continue to have that type of holiday that they would have for announcing games. So I'm not surprised, but it's looking like more and more that these companies want to not shy away from the ESA, because the ESA is important as their legal arm when it comes to government regulation, but they want to stay away from E3 as a whole in this. And to an extent, I guess I don't blame them. They don't need to market it that way. They don't need to do marketing that way and spend booth space. But like I mentioned in the other episode, there are other ways to get other people involved that they need to, they would use E3 for. E3 was a big thing to get retailers to buy into buying lots and lots of copies of their games. The gaming industry has little to no interest at this point in courting brick and mortar retailers. Only with lip service. They will say till they're blue in the face, oh yeah, we respect and we love our retail partners and we want to yada 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 yada. But then on the other cheek, they're gonna turn around and do all sorts of sales and all sorts of different goodies that you get if you buy digitally. So they are disincentivizing gamers to buy games physically by giving you more stuff digitally, including, and let's be honest, including being able to download the game right away at midnight, or not even download the game. You can download the game before midnight to be able to unlock the game at midnight and play right away. I mean, that is a very attractive thing for gamers. Gamers love that. So this is not entirely a surprise to me, at least, that E3, when it comes to the physical space and the physical convention, is starting to become less and less relevant. And that's true. It's true. But I still think, to a certain extent, the E3 holiday needs to move forward. And if it just turns into Summer Games Fest and Summer Games Fest becomes a weekly thing or a week thing where it's in the middle of June, and since people are used to that and all the announcements are there and the big things happen on that week, that might be the best thing going forward. And I hope that continues because, again, I still think it is relevant not only for game studios and different games to gain a lot of headway and to gain a lot of eyeballs within that type of thing. I also think it moves forward in a sense for the gaming industry when it comes to gaining mainstream respectability. I know there was a comment from one of our loyal listeners that disagrees with me, and that's fine. That's fine. But I still think, to a certain extent, this is a very important thing to have here. And you can't rely on the Game Awards to be that thing, because the Game Awards is supposed to be something that you talk about, that is for talking about the year previous. It's really not supposed to be the year forward, which it tries to do both. But the purpose of the Game Awards should be, let's celebrate the year that just happened. Then, let's look at what happens moving forward, even though they're trying to do both. But, okay. What do you guys think of E3 getting canceled? I know a lot of you are not going to be surprised by this. I'm not really either. But I kind of was stunned that they decided by the end of March that they were going to cancel it when it was 2 months away. That surprised me. So there's that surprise. But anyway, what do you guys think of E3 getting canceled? Do you think E3 is coming back? Sign off on the comments. Let me know if you have any topics that you want me to cover or you want to talk about, or if you have something that you want to say. You can email at zerowizcast@gmail.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at CapitalGamesPod. Until then, this is Capital Games. I am the Wiz. Talk to you next time. Bye.